Hi, I'm John Hellier. We're going to do a presentation today about stockpile management and loader operations to try and make us as effective as possible. And you can see from this slide how many different sizes of aggregates are in a product or a mix design. And if we could feed them to the plant like this in individual sizes, we wouldn't have to worry about segregation. But it doesn't work that way. So where does segregation occur? It starts right down in the pit with drilling and blasting, loading from the muck pile where we just shot, primary surge pile, conveyor belts and transfer points, stockpiles of the finished product, loading and transporting, and then finally dumping and spreading. So a lot of steps in there where segregation can occur. So here's a shot of the drilling and blasting, and you can see where we have already let off a shot, and that's they're drilling and getting ready to let off another one. So what can we control? You can see here from that shot that there's coarse areas in that shot and there's fine areas. And what we want to do is make sure we're being as consistent as we possibly can when we're loading the haul truck to the primary crusher. We don't want to load drop ball rock one time and then a finer material the next time. We want to be consistent in what we're doing. There he is dumping into the primary crusher. If it's segregated in the primary crusher, in that stockpile, it's going to be segregated throughout the whole operation of producing these products. Transfer points, you can see all the conveyors in this operation, and every time that material goes from one conveyor to the next, we have an opportunity for segregation to occur. Conveyor belts, as it's going over these idles, it's bouncing down that conveyor belt. And that vibration is going to cause that finer material to go to the bottom of the conveyor, and the coarser stuff's going to bounce around on top. That's what it's going to look like. That's a cross-section of material going up a conveyor belt. The wind can also aggravate segregation. If we've got a strong wind, it's going to blow the fines to one side of the pile, and the coarse is going to go to the other. And this is, if it's not even windy, this is what's going to happen, where the fine material, after it goes over that head pulley, is going to drop to one side. The coarse stuff, being heavier, is going to be shot to the other side of the stockpile. Heights. If our conveyors, this is a fixed leg stacker, so we can't adjust the height in this. But most of the conveyor systems out there and the conveyor systems in your plants will be able to adjust the height on it, and that will minimize segregation. So you want to start out close to the surface and then bring it up as the stockpile comes up. We want to make sure we're not running that material over the side of a pile, because you can see in this shot right here that the coarse stuff's going to roll to the outside and the fine stuff's going to stay on the inside. And that's what it will look like in the stockpile. So you can see the coarse stuff's all on the outside of the pile, and they call them center cone fines. That's what's on the center of that pile. This is a telescopic conveyor, and it is used to build little pyramids to prevent segregation. So what's wrong with this picture? They've got it, and they're running it on the edge of the pile. So they've turned this device into a segregation machine by not using it the proper way. You want to make sure that it's not falling down the face of the pile. And this is what I was talking about, maintaining small stockpiles. This will minimize the amount of segregation you'll experience. We don't want to do this. Take that material, and we've done everything properly, and now we're putting it in the stockpile. Dumping it over the edge like that is creating segregation. So everything we did before that was a waste. This is what we want to do, is build these little piles, and this will minimize segregation. And you can see as they're bringing trucks in building stockpiles that dozer is not pushing the material over the side. He's building it up like a pyramid. So again, minimizing segregation. We don't want to throw the material off the side. Again, you're doing just like they did with that truck dump, where the material is going to roll down the face of that pile and it's going to come apart. This is the proper technique, is to push it and then roll it out of the bucket down the side of the pile. So here's another technique if you've got a big stockpile. We want to take and divide that pile into separate sections, and you can see that if we do that, the two lines in the middle are going to be fine and the two lines on the outside are going to be coarse. So when that loader goes in there, we want to make sure that we're working that entire face. So we'll put that into a little mini pile. We'll build a little small pile, again, working the whole face of that stockpile. There, he's getting some more. And then we want to take and push that over the edge. We want to make sure that our bucket is level when we're rolling it off the side. And then again, don't roll that bucket over the side, causing segregation. What we want to do is leave that material in the bucket and then just dump it right on the top of the pile and build your berm safely around the top of that pile. We want to keep separation between the stockpiles so that material doesn't intermingle. You can see there's enough room to drive a vehicle in between those stockpiles, so we don't have to worry about cross-contamination there, like this. Now, how in the world are you going to get good material with those two piles running together like that? It's not going to happen. Controlling your trucks is very, very important. If you stage your trucks all the way across the face of that pile, how are you going to possibly work that stockpile properly to load those trucks? So you've got to control the trucks. You're in charge of those trucks. And if they don't listen to you, hey, we'll bury them, right? Another way to control the trucks is to build berms around your stockpile so they can't pull into areas where you can't properly work that face again. And again, here, loading out of a cone-shaped pile, it's going to create segregations, and you're going to have some real issues with that. Proper moisture content. Material's going to come apart when the material dries out. It's not cohesive. That water will help hold that material together and minimize segregation. I like to tell a story that everybody can kind of relate to as far as moisture content's concerned, and I call it the walk on the beach. And if you're walking in dry sand, you're sinking down into it because that material's not held together with the moisture. And then when you walk out in the deep water, again, you're sinking in. But if you walk right where those waves have been breaking, you hardly leave a footprint. And that's dry stuff is under optimum moisture, wet stuff out in the water is over optimum moisture, and a nice walk on the beach is at optimum moisture. So that's a kind of an illustration. I think everybody's been to the beach and taken a walk, so hopefully you can relate to that. Okay, we're going to do a demonstration here on stockpile management and how segregation can be created by a loader. What we're going to do is make a stockpile with this bucket. You can see I've cut the bottom out of it. And I've got some V.21A in these buckets that are in the middle of the specification. And the demonstration is going to show how a loader operator can create segregation in material that's right down the middle of the spec. All right, here comes my conical stockpile. Okay. All right, this is my stockpile. Here's my loader. And I'm going to go into the stockpile here. This is my first load going out to the job site. So he goes out the gate to the job site. And then my second truck just arrived, so I'm going to load him. And notice I'm going into the same spot in the stockpile. Okay, my first truck arrives on the job site and dumps. Looks kind of coarse. Here comes my second load. And then they spread it out on the job site. And that's what they get. This is a stockpile that was right down the middle of the spec, and you'll see when we look at the gradations, this is now out of spec on the fine side, and this is now out of spec on the coarse side, all due to not working the face of that stockpile properly. So I've got a perfect product here, but because my loader wasn't working that pile properly, I've got two loads that are out of compliance. Okay, after that demonstration, you can see that the first bucket is very, very coarse because I took it from the outside of the stockpile. And then I went into that same area again 3 times to load what represents the second dump into your hopper. And you can see that that's very, very fine. So we've got the average in that next column, and you can see that the normal wrap gradation is the next one over, and it's pretty close to what we started out with. But by not working that stockpile properly, I've created a segregation issue that's going to be very difficult. And you can see on the very bottom of the page the different binder contents or AC content in that mix is going to vary greatly too, because again, the surface area of the fine material versus the coarse material. So you're going to have a real hard time controlling your binder content also. This is one that I did earlier with a base material, a dense graded material. And you can see the stockpile sample is right down pretty close to the middle of the specifications. And then you take your first one, and you can see on that 3/8 sieve that it's out of compliance on the coarse side. So you're in penalty points on that one. And you can see from the second time, when we went into that same spot again, that you're out on the fine side. So you combine them both together, and you're back in the middle of the spec. But because I didn't work that stockpile properly, I'm in penalty points on this material. There's your specifications for what we call a 21A, 21B, and you can see the adjustment points over on the far right there. Defining quality. Quality is what the customer says it is. Quality has another characteristic in that it can be physically measured. If all the measurements add up to what the customer wanted, then we've defined quality. Conformance to requirements. Okay, in summary, be consistent in what you do. Everybody needs to perform their tasks properly. It's a team effort. You saw all the steps that we went through in that material handling, and segregation can occur in each one if we don't do it the right way. Know your customers' needs and listen to their concerns. Measure what you're doing and know that if we don't meet the customer's needs, our competition will. Thank you.